Fruits Crackers from Whom the Bell Tolls by TempestMask1000. So take it away, Tempest.
Thanks, Nick. All right, hello, friends and fellow gamers. My name is TempestMask1000, and some of you may know me as Steve. And today I'm going to be showcasing what is my most recent platforming investment, my most recent speedrunning investment in a fantastic indie game that recently launched in August 31st of last year, Curse Crackers for Whom the Bell Toils. This is the second released game from indie dev Colorgrave, and they are a fantastic team. I highly implore you to go ahead and check out their previous game as well, Prodigal, and major shoutouts to them. It's only currently available on Steam, but both games have demos, so definitely try them out, and if you're feeling game for them, please consider getting them. You are supporting a wonderful, wonderful crew. But joining me today for this any % Bell mode run is the writer of the Auto Splitter and a runner himself, Ayato Core.
Hello, I'm Ayato Core. I, like you said, have created the Auto Splitter for the game, so if you want to take the game for a run yourself and try out the speed runs, it'll help you get there very quickly. I also have run the game quite a bit on the Bell categories for any % and any % no cactus, but we'll get into those a little bit later once the game has actually started.
Before we get right into it, I do want to show off a quick couple of options right here. First and foremost, text speed. This is for text scrolling, and it'll be set to the maximum speed, which will allow me to mash right through it. And then I also have this handy-dandy little timer setting on right here. It's not the most necessary, but it does give you like a nice little timer for individual level runs and a little something else that we might make a little nod to if necessary. But yeah, otherwise this game is fun and will go fast. So without further ado, Ayato, would you like to count me down?
Certainly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And go.
All right, so this is a platformer that takes a huge influence on acrobatics because Belle here is a former circus performer, and this applies to both her and her handy-dandy Belle buddy Chime, who is practically indestructible when it comes to thick and thin. But overall, we're going to start making use of a special room called
the Cactus Room. So, this room is actually only available if you have completed the game once already. So, get through the whole game, beat the final boss, do the final cutscene, blah, blah, blah. Basically, this allows you to enter a series of codes which you can use to unlock various cheats throughout the game. Unlock special items, unlock levels, that sort of thing. What we're going to be doing specifically for this run is 2 codes. The first one unlocks an item that we're going to be picking up right here called the Graven Mask. And what that will do is it will get Steve a double jump, which is extremely powerful in a platforming game. The second code is a little bit more noticeable as we go through, and that gives you access to the entirety of the game's levels up to a certain point, which we'll get to later on. Now, because the majority of the levels have been unlocked during this variety of speedrun, what we're working with particularly are collection of these Ardell roses, which will give us access to the final area of the game where the boss is. So a lot of the routing is based around figuring out which of these roses are the easiest to pick up, what routes are the quickest ones to get to any given rose, which levels we should skip, which levels we should stick with, that sort of thing. And because a lot of the items are being picked up as we go, you'll see a lot of exiting to the world map.
The reason for this is because Curse Crackers is programmed so that it automatically tracks every collectible you get within the level and doesn't require you to hit the goal in order to keep it, which is a very, very convenient feature and something I fully approve of. It's also actually a trick we do use, though, in another category, which is any % no cactus. And in doing so, this allows us to backtrack once we've activated these special little cannons spruced throughout the second stage of each world, and allows us to then jump straight on to the next world, which is really cool. And also a nod to the new Super Mario Brothers games, if you are familiar with how those also had cannons that let you boost on over to to another world from whatever point you were at.
So as we go through each of these levels, you're going to be seeing a whole variety of different biomes, different sort of areas, and you'll also notice lava, which is going to be our big enemy through this entire run, really. That's probably the thing that's killed me the most in any speed run over any other enemy. It's not great.
Wait a second, this is stage 1. Oops.
That's fine.
Oh, wait, no, that was... Alright, no, that was the right stage. Oops. Well, then I shouldn't have left it. Why'd I second guess myself?
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's a little bit of spice time.
Indeed. Very much spice time. Alright, let's try that again, though. So, basically what I'm doing right now is I'm admittedly following a set of notes that I've put together to help me route out what roses I am collecting. And it is very handy. It also reminds you of things that you do. It's just like very basic conjecture really, and not much else to it.
The nice thing about it also, about this game I should say, is that even if we do miss a rose or two in a spot that would be fast, it's pretty easy to sort of recover from that position because there's a lot of roses sprinkled throughout the game, and in order to unlock the final level, we only need 30. So I don't actually remember what the total number is. Yeah, that was pretty close. I don't remember what the total number is throughout the entire game, but there's a lot more than 30. So we've got a lot of wiggle room to go with.
Yeah, at least over 140s. So
they're 3 per level. They're not hard to pick up. Just there's a lot of them. But if you're going through the game normally, you'll get them anyway because you'll just be going through the levels.
Not to mention that Colorgrave was very, very kind in placing these Ardell roses within a very natural position as you progress through each level. Chances are there's only going to be like at least a few cases where you might have to really look hard in order to find some of them, but other than that, chances are you're not going to have much trouble, if at all, to locate them.
A couple of them.
That's never happened before.
That was incredibly lucky. So that was our first death. Well, yeah. That was the first real death. And there's 2 things you would notice there. First, death in this game takes you back to the previous checkpoint. Pretty standard. Also, you'll drop a little floating bag thing, which contains all the coins you picked up since your last checkpoint. Now, I think actually since you hit the checkpoint as you died, you didn't drop anything?
I don't know. I think I'll have to look back at that one. I might have, but it might have instantly collected it. I could not tell you for the life of me.
That's fine. Didn't lose much anyway.
Yeah.
But you'll lose any coins you picked up since the last checkpoint, and you'll have to make your way back. Of course, it follows Shovel Knight or Dark Souls rules, where if you die on the way to collect it, they're gone forever. But since this isn't a game where the coins are limited use and you can't re-enter a level or anything, it's really just a matter of losing the coins in that moment in time.
And even then, we don't really need coins for any purposes here. In some of the other categories, yes, but not necessarily for the any % run with the cactus room, which is really nice.
Yes, nice and speedy and simple.
Very much so. Alright.
Steve brought it up a little bit at the beginning, but these games are very great for picking up speedrunning. Personally, I started speedrunning with their previous game, Prodigal, but this game we were also running when it was just the demo version. And in fact, we still have the demo categories on speedruns. We just don't run it as much anymore since the game is actually out now, and it's kind of a weird category to just run the first 5 levels of the game.
Still nice to have, though, for beginners. So, it's especially nice that the demo is still very much available, and something I can certainly appreciate. Ooh, that was a nice little trick. So, sometimes if I bounce... Yeah, there we go. That happened again. That's not the easiest to pull off, but I call that a bounce extension, which is when you hit the jump button once you are about to bounce off of anything with bounceable properties. So, those little flower springs, the enemies, basically, if you time it just right, Belle's going to gain quite a bit of height as a result of it. It's not necessary in order to super duper go fast, but it was just something that even casually playing I just came to realize, and it's pretty rad.
It's also incredibly helpful in some weird sections. Like there's some sections of this game where you can just skip a huge chunk of it by being able to use one of those bounces.
Alright, so now we've entered the second to last world of the main 5. So there are 5 worlds together, each with 5 stages, and normally how the order plays out is you have a mini boss at the end of a first boss at the end of stage 3, and then a last boss in the end of stage 5. But on top of that too, every stage 4, at least every stage 4 concluding at this world, also has a bit of level geography that requires you to get ingredients for Claire, who is a baker that is able to produce these fascinating concoctions that allowed Chime to change in all different sorts of ways. But
They're magic.
Ooh, yeah, they're magic.
They're magic pastries.
Very much so.
She's also getting her own game later.
Yes, this is true. And I really look forward to seeing how that all goes out. But yes, shout out to Claire a la mode. And we're actually going to see her coming up in just a bit. There she is. In this case, I would have had to go all the way on over to find an ingredient locked away in some rusty treasure chest. Why an ingredient would even be in a treasure chest, I have no clue. But it would have been something called the Phantom Flan, which, when given to Chime, allows Belle to jump through floors. It's a really nifty little thing. But yeah, other than that, I just need to collect those 3 roses, and then we should have our total 30. And now we're moving into our first proper boss level.
Yes,
so Ayato, go ahead and talk about Beakerston.
Yes, this is Beakton. He is an incredibly powerful boss. He'll be invulnerable during this phase when he's firing at you from the background, and he's dead.
Yeah, it must have been a bit of an oversight, but it's honestly one that everyone's willing to run with. It's just so funny to see.
And this is the first real proper boss fight that we're going to see in the run. This is Bonnie. She is your former best friend, now turned into enemy, who's kidnapped your boyfriend, and you are going to defeat her in... There you go.
But now, all of a sudden, here comes some extra cast of characters in which we did not initially get to see proper. So first we have Vivian here, who the game actually lets you rescue her from a petrified state if you manage to find her within one of the swamp world levels. That's world 3. But the game also accounts for the possibility that the player might have not found her by this point, so there's some dialogue differences in that situation, and that's my favorite little clip right there.
Yeah, so that's just a very small little trick where Belle, when her head is trapped in a spawning block, like one of those, will just clip off to the side in a certain direction depending where she's facing. It's a very specific little movement that really only applies to that level. There are other blocks like that in the game, but that is the only time I can think of any use for it.
All right, so
on the next boss, this is Lear. So unlike most of the other bosses in the game, which follows sort of a, 3 hits, solve how they work boss fight system, Lear is the only one who I can say has help. You have to hit her multiple times, and that's unfortunate. She has multiple attacks. This is the worst one. Since she's slightly RNG, she has one move which turns her into a sort of invulnerable projectile that travels across the screen, but thankfully she only did it the one time instead of chaining multiple of them together.
Also, Victory Dance, yay! We actually get to see it this time. So what I just did there was I activated a story point. You would think initially that you'd want to complete level 1 as well to do what I'm about to do, which is speak to Blind Gaze and unlock the final levels. But it turns out that if you just beat Astral 2 and take on Lear, that's all you need to do. The game is perfectly fine with letting you skip collecting one of Blind Gaze's 2 eyes, and yet she has both of them regardless.
Don't worry about it. She was wearing a pirate's patch the whole time.
There you go.
Alright, so this is the final boss, Liadra, who is a combination of Lear and Tedra, the other sassy lost child that we did not see. She has a variety of attacks that involve basically throwing lightning at you from afar. She's got a move like Lear's where she turns into a projectile, but you've got plenty of moves of your own with the new sight that you borrowed from Bonnie. One thing that's interesting to note, and you might see it, is that we are not going to be avoiding any hits during this fight. We're going to be taking hits all the way through, and that is because the scythe has an interesting property where it actually deals more damage as you get lower in health.
That's a bit of a time waster right there. Okay, there we go. Whoa! Well, then.
It's fine.
You know
it's
what?
Not too much
It's
of a time
fine.
loss.
Yeah.
It's fine. But as I was saying, so we're going to be taking hits intentionally in some cases because we get more damage out of it. You'll also see that there's those little green orbs coming out of Leandra. Those will actually heal you if you hit them, which makes hitting her on occasion the wrong choice because she'll actually heal you up instead of giving you more damage. You may also say, hey, that makes it way harder to die to this boss. Haha, you'd be wrong.
All right, so this is a fight that's going to be comprised of 3 different phases, or not different, but yeah, just 3 phases overall, with different battlefields, different little fight stages. And once we see her being defeated, time will happen on the first frame that the next text box appears. That was a close one. All right, so here comes phase 3. I am actually pretty close to PBing, but I think after that death, it is not gonna happen, so we'll just have to see.
I mean, you never know.
No. Nah, it ain't happening. Oh,
yeah,
well.
No, not with those. Oh, yeah, look at that. Come on, man.
All right, and time.
Very nice, very clean run, apart from the chain of invulnerable attacks.
Whew, and the death. Let's not forget that, too. Dems the apples. All right, but that was any % Belle mode. We have officially saved the world, and effectively what Tidra and Lear were doing was they were trying to use this gigantic meteor rock spike to essentially wipe out the world below, but we've effectively stopped them. And here comes Ren. Don't know who she is, but she looks very, very Prodigal related, probably.
If you want to find out more, maybe you should go play Prodigal, also by Color Gray, a fantastic indie game.
Yeah, apparently the 2 worlds are connected, but the good news is that you don't necessarily have to play that game in order to understand what's going on here, which honestly is just a fantastic mark for a game on its own. It's just fantastic on its own, and
the gameplay of the game is also fantastic.
That too, yes. So I highly implore you guys to please consider getting this game. We at the speedrunning community officially inhabit the Colorgrave server on Discord, where you can not only get the latest tips and stuff going on, but also